Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and we got a knife that's about to flash you. Sure, let's go with that. We got the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves right here in front of me. Let's get into it.
Maybe your brain needs a reflash.
Maybe my brain does need a reflash. Flash that firmware. I'll settle for caffeine. Maybe that... Ooh. We're off to a great start, aren't we?
And flash.
Find that little reset button behind me. Anyway, let's start with the flash batch from Spyderco. This is called the SpyNano. It is a flash batch, meaning this is the only time they're going to make this knife. Not just this variant of this knife period. So this is the way the SpyNano is gonna look, and it's never gonna look any way else because they ain't gonna do it. What do you got here? We have, as you can see from the back here, a collaboration with LionSteel. This knife is based on their Nano. It does some things, well, basically the thing it does is add the Spyderco opening hole to it. Makes it a little easier, or gives more options for opening the knife than the standard Nano came with. They've also gone with M398 steel on this knife, which in terms of stainless steels is like near the tippy top of what we can achieve with edge retention right now. It's not particularly tough, so this is not necessarily like a knife you want to go like wrenching and twisting on, because the steel itself is less or less resistant to breaking and bending, warping, that sort of thing. But in terms of holding an edge, if you want a stainless steel, this can equal or get in the similar ballpark to stuff like 10V and 15V. Kind of sits kind of in between the two of those from the way we understand it. Really cool stuff. $236 and some change for this knife is what you're getting. You've got the titanium frame lock here on the back, green micarta on the front, tail mounted deep carry pocket clip, which is a nice thing. 2.56 inches is the blade length. We've got a flipper tab on this knife if you want it. The flipper tab is removable, actually. That's a LionSteel thing they do here and there. If you want to take that flipper tab off, one could do that, because you've also got that blade hole, thumb hole for opening, even if you're going to use your middle finger for opening it rather than your thumb. But it feels nice and sturdy despite the compact size overall. You can still get a pretty full feeling grip on it, even though it's only a 3-finger length for my hand size, which is slightly larger than average. I'm a large or extra large glove, depending on the company. But it feels secure, and that's due to the height of the platform overall. Check it out, the SpyNano. Did I mention it has a crown spine?
Now you have.
Don't think I did.
Checks in the mail.
Nice and silky under the fingers, which is quite nice. Next up, we have a new version of the Benchmade Bugout that dropped earlier this week. This is, actually, I was about to say this is the most expensive factory Bugout we have seen so far. Let me just confirm that real quick.
I'm sure there was a gold class at some point.
Yes, there might have been some gold classes. It's the sits at the top of the standard production range, at least. $400 for this knife. What you're getting for that is the Bugout shape. The blade has the same sort of dimensions. It does get an upgrade to S90V, however, so more edge retention than the S30V of the base models. And the handles are much more rigid than the injection molded handles of the standard version. We've got aluminum with integral bolsters and Richlite for the handle inlays. Richlite is sort of like a paper micarta, so it has a really nice matte texture when finished like this. It's a good way to finish Richlite, quite honestly. Just feels very accommodating. Anodized orange for the backspacer and the thumb studs as well. You've still got all the rest of the Bugout DNA, however. You've got the reversible deep carry mini pocket clip. You've got the axis lock. Benchmade has been doing crossbar locks longer than anyone, and they do it quite well, still to this day. Ambidextrous operation, finger safe closing operation on that lock as well. Great knife for lefties or righties. 3¼ inches on that blade means it's a good all-around size. It's nice and thin with a high flat grind, meaning it's a good all-around slicer as well. Next up, a similarly sized knife, and another nicely colorful knife. Let me just say, there's a lot of black knives in the world, and we're going to get to some of those. But at least I like starting with a little bit of a variety in color and tone. They go together, they're nice. The 450 from Zero Tolerance, a Dmitry Sinkovich design, similar dimensions to the Bugout actually. 3 1/4 inch blade. This is, actually, is this a limited edition? It doesn't say limited edition on our website, so this may be a standard catalog item. I'm not entirely sure. Price on this is $4.59 and some change, however. It is priced like a limited edition. 3 1/4 inch blade. You've got Vegas Forged Damascus. That's a stainless Damascus here. It is designed to look great and perform well enough. If you like this shape of knife overall and you want the best edge retention you can get, the S35 VN versions are going to be the standard option for you folks out there. That starts at about $232 for a stonewashed titanium handle satin blade. So if you like the design but aren't so keen on the price here, that is another way to get your hands on it. Handles, red and orange multi-carbon fiber or multi-marbled carbon fiber, sorry. Stumbled on the words there. Titanium frame lock on the back, kind of classic Zero Tolerance DNA. Of course, you've got the steel interface on the lock bar face and the integrated over travel stop arrestor as well, keeping you from pushing that frame lock too far out of whack when you unlock the knife. There's the closed profile, nice and slim overall. 2 inline screw pocket clip. Nice flipping action with the ball bearings on that knife. Slightly thicker than the Bugout. Just make sure of that. Yep, just slightly thicker. And a slightly more stout grind. So not quite as slicey as something like the Bugout, but still slicey enough given its dimensions. Overall, feels really good. It's about a 3-finger grip in the standard section here, but the kick up here at the back gives me a nice place for my pinky at least to rest, meaning I can get an actual 4-finger grip on the knife, even though I just said 3-finger, but you take my meaning right there. Very cool looking knife. Now from Zero Tolerance's parent company, Kershaw, we have a new version of the Bel Air. The Bel Air was far and away the best-selling new knife design of 2024, so it's no surprise we're continuing to see a lot of cool new variants. And we've now got that kind of signature ZT, Kershaw ZT tiger stripe finish on the Magna Cut blade right here. $160 for this, so it's about a $10 upcharge for that cool finish right there. 3.1 inch blade, as mentioned, it is Magna Cut, so it's, in addition to being stainless and high edge retention and holding, in addition to being stainless and holding an edge a long time, still haven't found that reset button. It is also nice and tough as well. It hits all 3 of those pillars in a way that no other steel out there kind of does at this point. Yeah, you can get more edge retention or more toughness, but not all 3 of those things in one steel, which is cool. And it's nice to have a good bit of toughness on a blade so thin as the Bel Air right here. It's thin with a full flat grind and a very acute tip, so it is a very wonderful slicer. You're not going to be prying pallets with this, but it's going to cut, don't you know? And for those keeping score at home, for those of you who think that this is a knife that competes with the Benchmade Bugout, which is not an unfair comparison, even thinner blade stock on the Bel Air, so even slicier. Fair bit less expensive than this new version of the Bugout that just showed up too. Aluminum handles, reversible, very deep carry pocket clip, KVT ball bearings in the pivot of this knife, giving it kind of a glassy, smooth feel, as opposed to the more like buttery, smooth feel of the washers that you get in the Bugout. There you go. A couple different flavors of crossbar lock to check out this week. And with that knife, we enter the dark side. And CRKT has also joined the dark side with a new version of the Padawan. See what I did there? I made a Star Wars joke.
Nerd.
Yeah, guilty. Blacked out version of the Padawan with some fancy inlays here. Just under $100 for this version right here. It's a Pedro Buzetti design. Just over 3 inches on the blade. And it's got that vaguely Nessmuckish-like shape that makes me very happy. Nice crowned spine on this, which is even shared on the less expensive versions of this knife. 14C28N for the blade steel. Very tough, pretty darn stainless. Not as high edge retention as Magna Cut, but still a very capable steel for sure. Speaking of steel, you have a stainless steel frame with frame lock and a shredded carbon fiber overlay on both sides and shredded carbon fiber backspacer too. Single position deep carry pocket clip on this. Let's check out the action. Well, first I'll show you the closed profile. I like that shape. You've got a flipper tab, you've got ball bearings, and you've got great flipping action to boot, as expected. This is actually one of 4 total models that CRKT debuted at Blade Show Texas this past weekend, all of them being, of the blacked out variety. The next of them is the K.I.S.S, the famous Ed Halligan design, the Keep It Simple Stupid knife that kind of is one of the things that put CRKT on the map originally, and you can still get it now, and it's still affordable. This is about $45 right now. For that, you're getting a 2 1/4 inch blade, VG10 steel, a good find at this price range for sure. Usually those are a little more expensive. And part of that could be because there's fewer parts and fewer bits of labor attached to a knife like this. Because you only have a one-sided frame locking handle right here, as you can see. Works just as nicely as a standard folder though, even despite seeming to lack some of the requisite parts. The blade itself is tanto shaped, and it is chisel ground, as you can see, completely flat on the backside. It's all ground from the outside, and that is because that keeps the edge a little bit closer to that handle when it's in the closed position. So you could actually stick this in your pocket. I can rub my fingers along it this way, do the lawyerly thing, even though we're not lawyers, and say, don't try this at home, even though they designed it to be safe, but gotta cover our butts, don't you know? But it keeps it close there, so it's not gonna snag so much. Yeah, you can get under there. Some other things in your pocket could get wedged in there if you're carrying it with the pocket clip, which also works as a money clip, but your mileage may vary. Use your own judgment on that. Very cool to see this kind of getting a refresh. Next up, we have a new version of the MinimalX from Daryl Caston. 2.19 inch blade, 12C27 Sandvik steel, tougher even than the 14C28N that we just talked about a minute ago. Not quite as edge holdiness, not quite as edge holdy, however. I'm working on like a weird thesaurus we got off of some black market site in my internal files right now, just making up words. Or using strange
Need to defrag that thesaurus.
Probably. $70 for this knife. You have this, they call it modified tanto blade, and I guess that's fair enough. With this real cool fuller down the front and a very almost vertical or almost kind of right angle justified leading edge with the curve there and that sharpened leading edge. Not quite something like CRKT's Razel series, but kind of getting close to it. Frame lock, as mentioned, you've got a milled pocket, no, sorry, not a milled pocket clip. You've got a folded clip, but with a significant standoff right there, holding it out to the proper length. Very clean and svelte profile in that closed position. Very subtle, but still effective flipper tab to open that blade, and frame lock for security, of course. We also had, until you bought all of them before we could shoot the video, the other knife that they released is the Mabumbo, which is basically a bigger version of this, but it's also a much more premium version of the MinimalX right here. It's got a 3 1/4 inch blade versus this was like 2.5 or 2.2. So over an inch longer in the blade and longer handle as a result. M390 steel, so jumping way up into the premium realm of things. Titanium handles as well. Again, all black, same blade shape, just scaled up. And that's about $250. And we're working on getting some more of those. Maybe I'll have that to show you folks next week on the show. Next up, we have Vero Engineering. I'm happy to say we finally have Vero here at the KnifeCenter, and this is one of their non-locking knives. This is the Neuron. It's a double detent style of slip joint folder, or detent joint folder. 2 versions. You've got the all black version here, black stonewashed blade and handle. That sits about $260. The stonewashed, or sorry, stonewashed handle, satin finished blade version sits at about $275, and that's down to basically more hand time went into this blade because it has a very custom level feel with a hand rubbed horizontal finish going on right there, which is very, very nice. The blade itself is 2 3/4. It is M390, ground very thin behind the edge and very sharp out of the box as well. Titanium handles, milled titanium pocket clip, and that clip is secured by the single body screw from the opposite side, which is pretty nice too. It is, as mentioned, a double detent, so it's not as strong or not as crisp of a hold open as a standard slip joint or a traditional slip joint would be. To get around that a little bit, this modified, well, I wouldn't even say that's modified, this sheep's foot style blade with its tip down near the bottom, if you're actually using that tip, at least the force is kind of pushing back towards the spine of the knife, keeping it from maybe accidentally closing a little prematurely. And that's something you just have to be aware of with these double detent style of non-lockers. It's a very tidy dimension overall. You could flip the blade closed. If I did it right, there you go. Multiple opening options. You've got rear flipper, you've got a front top slash flipper, and the cutouts, I hesitate to say fuller because it's not quite a fuller shape, but these milled pockets in the handle also give you opening options. You could open it with your thumb, like a traditional one-handed opener. You could reverse flick with that same section, which is very nice indeed. You could flip like a standard flipper, and haven't tried it yet, but you can front flip. Someone out there can front flip. You know, if we're doing this.
Me either. I had a lot of trouble.
Yeah, a lot of trouble with it. It is there, but you could also do the lighter flick anyway. It's kind of in the same hand position as a front flip, so I would probably wind up doing that. There you go. We've also got their bit driver pry bars, the large and the small in stock. You can check those out at the site, and more to come soon. One more modern non-locker, then a semi-modern non-locker, and some more non-modern non-lockers after. This is the Nand from Spyderco. One more Spyderco today. This is a Paul Alexander design. They're calling it a ball joint slip joint. Ball joint's a pretty good name for that detent joint style of flipper. I actually kind of like that better than detent joint. I wonder if they copyrighted that name or trademarked that name. I don't know. But overall, we've got this very angular design, titanium handles, 3.2-inch blade, very slender, very thin cross section, and M398 again here. It's kind of a steel that makes sense on a non-locking knife, especially a non-locking knife with a blade stock so thin. That encourages you to think of this knife not as a heavy-duty bruiser, which, you know, there's something about, even though it's small, that SpyNano has a bit of like tanky bruiser-like attitude to it. M398 not being as tough of a steel, treat this like a slicer. Like the handle doesn't lock, or the blade doesn't lock, and it is nice and thin in the cross section. It is scalpel-like overall, and is going to hold that edge quite nicely, especially because of the geometry on this knife too. As you can see, this knife is also made in Maniago, Italy, just like the SpyNano. I wonder if, in fact, this is LionSteel. It might be Fox. They work with Fox a bit too on various knives. The cool thing, or the different thing about this anyway, whether you think it's cool or not, that's up to you, is where the detent balls are placed on this knife. It's actually right up here in this forward arm. Let's see if we can get that to show at all. You can see them flaring out as we break loose that blade right there, and they stick out just a little bit in the closed position as well. We've got a reversible wire pocket clip, keeping things nice and subtle, and a few different ways to open it. You can use the opening hole. You can also treat it like an old school friction folder and open it with the tab right there at the back. One of the other things I appreciate about this design overall is, even though it's non-locking and it doesn't have the same kind of spring tension as a traditional slip joint, there's some integrated safety in the way this handle presents itself, the way you hold the handle. One, with your thumb on the back right there, you're putting pressure on the spine of the knife, keeping it pushed into the closed position. And even more than that, if you choke up on this area right here, you're essentially then pinching the blade itself. Like the handle almost moves more freely than the rest of the blade. So it's much less likely to close on you inadvertently. That would ruin your day real quick. Next up, kind of bridging the gap between the modern non-locking knives and traditional non-locking knives, we have a mostly traditional with touches of modern case knife here, the Crossroads Sodbuster Jr. This was one of the things I personally was most happy about from SHOT Show this past year, because it hits a really, really nice price point for a traditional knife with premium blade steel, just $70 for this, with S35 VN on that classic Sodbuster Jr. style blade. That blade itself is 2.8 inches long. You've got a full flat grind, stone washed finished, very thin cross section. It is another great slicey knife. There's been quite a few really slicey knives on this video today, and this is another good one. And again, the price is good, and that S35VN at that price is gonna hold an edge quite nicely. The handles are laminated wood, not as garish as some of the patterns out there. I actually really like this black and green combination going on, especially with the brass liners right there. You got a little bit more thickness than some of the Sodbuster Juniors in the lineup, giving you fairly secure feel in the hand when you're using that knife. 70 bucks too, made in the US, screw together construction. But yeah, I mean, it's classic K.I.S.S DNA, but updated just enough to keep it feeling fresh, you know. They're not obviously the first company to do screw together knife construction, but it's not common on, you know, traditional slip joints, especially traditional slip joints at this price range. That's cool.
Or traditional slip joints from K.I.S.S.
For that matter, yeah. The other cool thing too is instead of a nail nick, you've got a small blade cutout here. That makes it very easy to open, even without having to use your fingernails, which is a cool thing as well. Next up, traditional as traditional gets, the vault pattern for 2025 from K.I.S.S Knives, meaning the knife they're gonna make in 2025 and then put it back into the vault at the end of the year, is the Baby Doc. And I've got 7 of the 8 versions we have in stock on the site. Well, as the moment we're filming this, we only have 7 in stock. The traditional yellow synthetic handled version starts at like 54 bucks. You guys bought all of those before we could film this too. We're getting more. Yeah, 54 bucks up to about 77 right now, depending on which one you get. We've got Kieranite, we have got Curly Oak, we have Sycamore, Yellow Bone, Red Jig Bone, Spark Series, Caribbean Blue. I'm gonna continue my love affair with the Yellow Bone on this version right here. I just love that Yellow Bone, you guys. Like, if you're tired of seeing it, I'm sorry. Plus it shows up nicely against my shirt. Yellow's good. Anyway, the Yellow Bone version is about $70, and it's the Baby Doc, so it's the doctor's knife, just smaller. Just under 3 inches in that closed length position right here. You have 2 implements. I hesitate to say blades because they're not both blades. You have the penknife blade and the spatula / pill separator, whatever you want to call it right there. They probably have a official name for that. It's a spudger.
I don't imagine it's called the pill pusher.
They just call it the spatula blade. This one is the True Sharp stainless, of course, and it has that flat bottom here, which, you know, apocryphally at least, is used for crushing up pills and dispensing them in a pharmaceutical scenario only. Very cool. Check them out. I imagine we'll see more. If I'm remembering my my text correctly, these are just the first of the waves of different handle covers we're going to see on this knife in this upcoming year. Keep an eye out for more. All right, we had one real premium frame lock here at the beginning. Let's start to wind down the video with a few more. The first being the LionSteel Q4ttro. That's spelled Q, the number 4, ttro. Makes it real great to try and the Q4. It's like Audi. The Audi. No, they actually spelled out Quattro.
The Fantastic Four movie where the 4 was an A.
It's not a good comparison to be making here, I don't think. Anyway, the Q4ttro. It's based on their tray, but they've given it or the TRE, 3 rapid exchange, and it gives it one more opening option. The prices on these start at about 223 bucks. For that, you can get Black G10 or Burlap Micarta. There are titanium versions with carbon fiber inlays for about 284. A few different colors of those. This version right here has a marbled carbon fiber front handle. 270 bucks thereabouts for this knife. The blade itself is a very useful drop point blade. 3.3 inches Magna Cut steel, tough. Stainless, edge holdy, very nice. Slightly thicker than some of the thinner blades we looked at the front, giving it a bit more strength in the overall cutting geometry, but with the full flat grind there, it's still gonna be slicey, or pretty decently slicey. Titanium for the handle on the back with that milled titanium pocket clip. Lockup is quite strong. You've got a flipper tab, you've got a blade cutout, and you've got the top flipper right here. And by my count, that's 3 opening methods. Anyway, you've got the flipper tab, which works great. It is that removable flipper tab that we talked about already, this being another LionSteel product, of course. The top flipper works nicely for me. And you've got the blade cutout there giving you standard thumb opening, or with a little bit of work, the reverse flick right there. It's almost too small for me, so I have to kind of think about it, but I can get it pretty consistently, as you can see right there. Feels good in the hand, enough space there for a 4-finger grip for my hand size, and it comes with a really nice looking set of adjustment tools, T6 and T8 on this actually very nice split ring as well. Got this thing going with one of our buyers upstairs about how it's hard to find good split rings nowadays. Well, there you go, there's one. Next up, we have from Begg Knives, we have the Seishin, another frame lock. They call it a bolster lock, but it's that bolster style frame lock right there. This is actually a Kirby Lambert design. You probably could tell if you're familiar with his work. Price on this is pretty good for the level of refinement this knife presents. It's about $119. You're going to be able to find higher performance blade steels than the VG10 you get right here, but the whole package kind of adds into the value proposition of this knife. Oh, actually, I see another logo on the back here. This is also a Jared Van Otterloo collaboration with Kirby Lambert, apparently. Interesting. It does have both of their logos on there. There might be more to the story of this model that I'm unaware of. This is where I can lean on the comment section. If you know what that is, drop it in the section below. Love to know. Anyway, you've got a very kind of premium feel. It honestly, having held some custom Kirby Lamberts, doesn't feel that far off. Yeah, it may be a little heavy for its size because you've got bolstered stainless steel handles here rather than something like titanium, but it looks and feels like a Kirby Lambert. That's pretty cool. 3.5 inches, VG10 as mentioned, compound grinds. You have a hollow at the back, flat at the front, almost a full-length swedge, and a horizontal grain on the rest of the knife. Black stone-washed stainless steel. Handles here are birchwood. There is also a Packawood version for the same price if you want something a little kind of redder and richer looking than this right here. Milled pocket clip. I'm guessing that's probably titanium, but the rest is stainless steel. Let's see if I can... Yep, it's titanium as opposed to stainless steel, as you can see right there. So that's cool too. Let's check out the flipping action. Nice chunky custom style of Kirby Lambert blade. Opens nicely. I mean, just no complaints. Has a good thwack when it opens, for sure. This next knife kind of has similar vibes, but it is a higher end alternative to the Begg Knives Seishin here, which is quite nice. This is the from Mechforce. It's a collaboration with Barker Knives. This is the Hokkaido. This version it's my favorite version of the 3 in right now, featuring tree bark style titanium handles. It is a really cool, natural feeling milling pattern. It gives you grip, it gives you visual interest. It just looks a little bit different, which I see a lot of knives in my my day job here, so different can be really good. Price for standard smooth titanium or titanium with speed holes is about $440. You're at $460 for this tree bark version right here. With that, you've got a 3.5 inch compound ground Tanto blade, but you got magna cut steel on this one instead of the VG10 on the Seishin that we just looked at. The backside, you can see we've got that milled texture continuing on the pocket clip there and the backspacer. Hidden lanyard attachment point in that backspacer too, which is cool. And let's check out the flipping action here. Yeah, very nice. Feels good, you guys. Check out the tree bark, I like it. Immune from...
Parker.
I hadn't made that connection. I wonder if they did.
Went out on a limb.
I can't wait to split after this. Anyway, last but not least, the return revamped of a classic. I'm talking about the Fallkniven F1. It may not look all that different from the F1 you may be used to, but it's upgraded in this case to Elmax blade steel over the VG10. Going to give you generally a more coveted level of performance than the VG10 versions. But I love the Fallkniven F1. I have for a long time. It's kind of a perfect size for just about anyone. The blade itself is just under 4 inches long, yet it is sturdy. You've got enough thickness there for this to be a compact survival knife. And you've got a full convex grind right down to a 0 bevel right there. No secondary bevel, making it nice to maintain with sandpaper and strops for your edge maintenance, and strong and tough for hard use scenarios. Injection molded handle, might introduce some hot spots if you're working with it for hours, but it is compliant. It holds the hand nicely, or it hugs the hand nicely. Just a hint of a finger guard there at the front to keep you from slipping forward. Full length tang protruding at the back gives you some scraping and hammering options at the side. There's a reason the F1 is the official survival knife of the Swedish Air Force. Fallkniven, of course, being a Swedish company. The knife, however, is made in Japan, just FYI. It's very cool. You've got the lanyard hole there at the back, and you've got a very sleek sheath system overall. Doesn't take up a lot of room on your belt. It's a good consideration, especially if you're trying to keep your gear to a more manageable size. And it's the new style of sheath that has this tab there on the front. Lock that down, and it becomes much more difficult. You can yank it out if you want, but much more difficult for that knife to be extracted from the pocket, or sorry, from the sheath, until you undo that switch right there. If you've never experienced the F1, maybe you should. I like it. Anyway, that's all we have for today, folks. I'm sorry that there was only one fixed blade on the table today. That kind of makes me sad, but what are you going to do? If you like the knives, check them out in the links in the description, which will take you, of course, to KnifeCenter.com, where in addition to our new Sezzle payment options, so you can break these more expensive knives up into more manageable chunks, don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, so you can earn some free money on a future knife. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We are signing off. See you next time.